Ip Man, Kung Fu Master. Official trailer is here. I've seen the first 3 Ip Man movies, and I still don't know if I'm saying it right. Ip Man is how I've said it the whole time.
IP, man.
I haven't seen the 4th one. Little spoiler alert here, because I did have it ruined for me. He dies of old age, of cancer.
Oh no.
I feel like this is probably a prequel. I know they did one like many years ago. Maybe this is a continuation of that prequel. That's like the safest assumption I can make.
It's ignoring all the sequels, and now it's just the direct part 2 they always intended.
I mean, I saw like on some channel it said Ip Man 5, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So this title, Ip Man Kung Fu Master. Anyway, let's see what's in store. Have you seen any of the movies?
I've seen many fight scenes from the movies, but I have not seen a complete Ip Man movie. I am a heathen and a hater of cinema.
Alrighty, well, let's watch this.
功夫练来何用？有的人用它打打杀杀，有的人用它修身立命，而我回头是岸。
He does look like Donnie Yen.
叶先生，这里的钱你们能拿多少？
袁署长，我们警察的王法一定还他一个公道。
Ah.
That's a timeless question.
李云涛，这个署长
是会任人宰割。
A new vision? Are they just starting over?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know about that. Oh, got like a Kato mask on.
He also mentioned the Green Hornet. It would only make sense.
It's like triple flashier.
Yeah.
Oh.
阁下好功夫，阁下参与，我不走。
Test your might.
I gotta look this up really quick to see if this is a continuation of the prequel or if this is a remake. Because
Yeah, let's get to
one
the
will
bottom of
leave me a
this.
little bit more upset than the other. Okay, so according to here, he's credited in the IGN description as Dennis To, and he played him in The Legend is Born, Yip Man. I think it's Yip Man is the correct pronunciation. Just put it down in the comments, will you? That came out in 2010. Yip Man ended with Donnie Yen in the titular role in Yip Man 4. Here's the plot listed on IGN. Yip Man Kung Fu Master harks back to Yip's early days before the Communist Revolution in 1949. Yip, portrayed by Dennis To for the 3rd time as the martial artist who famously tutored Bruce Lee, was then a police captain who was framed for the murder of a ruthless but honorable mobster and targeted for vengeance by his dangerous daughter. Forced to quit the force, Yip soon also has to contend with the arrival of the Japanese army in Guangzhou. I'm stupid for not knowing how to pronounce that. Just getting that out of the way for all you commentators. All right, cool. I mean, it looks cool. It looks really cool. I don't hate it. I mean, I'm looking at IGN and they have like 1.2K likes and 798. That's almost a 50-50 split here. I mean, it looks a little bit cheesier. Actually, it looks a lot cheesier. It looks goofier. Whereas like the first one, and at least the trilogy the first 3 that I saw, you know, it started off in a pretty grounded portrayal. Like the big thing when it was advertised was, this is the guy who trained Bruce Lee, but that's really just a side thing. It's not like a focus point of the plot. I don't know if it evolves into that. Here, it looks like they're going back really to his early days, even before what took place in there, but I'm kind of wondering if it's going to mess with the timeline a little bit, because in the first Ip Man movie with Donnie Yen, he's kind of low-key. He's a low-key guy, and it looks like here he would have a major presence, and with the finale ending, at least the tease of the fight to come, guy with his presence who's taking on the Japanese, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of eyes watching that fight, where in the first movie it was sort of like, who is this guy? And then bam, he starts rising up. You know, like people in the town knew who he was, but then his legend really comes into fruition towards the end of that movie, where it looks like it looks like he would have legendary status by the end of this film, right? So that's why I'm kind of getting the impression it's trying to do a little bit of all of it, a soft reboot, prequel, kind of rewriting the way some of it played out. And considering that Ip Man 4 was not too long ago, to try to revitalize it right away and just keep it cooking, like, well, I don't really know how I feel about that. Yes, I have not seen the fourth installment. You know, the first three are still pretty rad, and to me, I'm like, you hear Ip Man, I think of Donnie Yen, and this guy looks like Donnie Yen, but I don't know. The fights look fun, but in terms of tampering with a pretty awesome franchise that made it from a different country and made it and became really popular in the States as well. I don't know, I kind of get the hate. I get it.
I mean, from an outsider's perspective, looking in on this trailer did not fully convince me of the movie around like the action set pieces, and there were certainly certain moments that almost reminded me of The Raid, of like, okay, here's gonna be, and I'm sure the other Ip Man movies have like very distinctly themed fights or whatever. Some of that stuff looked appealing, but this almost kind of reminded me of that Bruce Lee movie that came out like a couple years ago from Blumhouse, Tilt or whatever, where not that it like stars a white dude, but just something about like the edges of the production values and stuff like that. It looks like the fights themselves would be cool, but something about just the movie itself doesn't look quite as compelling as like the other fight scenes I've seen or the trailers for the previous Ip Man movies that I have seen. So I can see at least what you're getting, Hat, and I do often find that is a huge pet peeve of mine with prequel or earlier set movies, when they clearly depict on the same timeline somebody who is demonstrating much crazier, more sleek, more Hollywooded up abilities than we know they will down the line. I really hope that that's not the case, basically, for this.
I mean, to me, I'm really just kind of at the confused state of, even though this guy played him before, the trailer pitches it as a remake in a lot of ways. They're saying a new vision of him. They're not treating it like a continuation of the other one. So I could see them just straight up remaking this. The wire effects in here look cool. At the same time, I'm wondering how that's going to play with some fans, because while the other movies did have wire effects in there, it seems like they've kind of amped up a little bit to make it just easier to understand. A little bit more like the Crouching Tiger fantastical elements. And while there is some of that in the other ones, it looks much more pumped up here in the trailer, especially with the girl. It didn't do a good job even on, it's trying to sell me on a movie here, but not really the character. And I think that's one of the issues with the trailer too. I don't know exactly what they're trying to pitch on here. Just cool action scenes, a cool movie. And while I'm sure the fight scenes will be fine, if you don't have Donnie Yen in the role, I don't think you should try to like hide away from that. If anything, you should try to be doing something where you're like, you know what? It might not be Donnie Yen, but this guy's played him before. Yeah. But you know what? In the end, he looks like he'll probably do just as good of a job, or at least worthy enough, which I feel like for some people, that's just a no-no. No matter what they try, no matter what they do, it's only Donnie Yen.
De-aged Donnie Yen.
A big part of me kind of feels that way too. So, especially for this version of him. I know it's based on a real-life guy, but they wildly fictionalized
the franchise version is so like that it's tied to Donnie Yen even in my plebeian mind.
Yes, so like there's other historical figures you can use. I don't know if any of what they're telling here is grounded in reality. Highly doubt it. If it is, let me know. As it stands, I feel like for your first debut big trailer of this, I think you could have probably done a little bit of a better job on actually selling. I'm not going to write it off entirely, because I'm under the impression that when fight scenes come up, I'll be like, yeah, the fights are still cool.
Yeah, it just looks more like a movie than like a martial arts film.
Yeah, it feels a little bit generic, and especially if you're going to continue it without Donnie Yen, at least try to keep this franchise alive, you got to have something that feels a little bit more unique other than just cool action.
Well, it's a series that seems like it's innovated, so you can't just borrow from the things that Ip Man inspired. You
Yeah.
also have to stay cutting edge, and I think that's a tricky thing. That's just a big, landing they got to stick.
But we'll see how it turns out. Are you guys gonna watch it? Let me know. Subscribe to The Real Rejects, click that notification bell, hit the like button, yada yada yada. Deontay W. I was thinking about who's probably the one with the best martial arts move over at our Patreon page, and it's Deontay W. It's called the Tongue Punch Fart Box. What he does is he grabs your tongue, punches it, so that way you're like, and then he farts in your mouth.
Just like ass style, full on. He's really flexible, double jointed. It's a full on assault for both like the physicals,
Disgusting.
but also it's intoxicating. You pass out.
It hits all of the painful senses. Nasty smell, physical, oral pain.
Just like you can taste it, and it's
The
gross.
taste
It
is
just
gross.
it was
Yeah.
just in his butt,
His name, Tongue Punch Fart Box, over at our Patreon page. So we're working with what we
the
got,
gift that
guys.
keeps on giving,
We're working with
Deontay.
what we
It's the
got.
gift.
It's not just some sick thing we came up with.
No,
It's his fault.
It's his nickname, and one day we will find the origin story of that and make the prequel Deontay movie.
Thanks for being here, Deontay. Appreciate you being part of our Patreon page.